your fitness business podcast snapshot, recognizing artificial intelligence in the fitness industry, how smart newsletters can deliver individualized content for your members, plus 3 tips for introducing artificial intelligence into your fitness business. All of that and more coming up on today's show. You're listening to the industry's leading fitness business podcast for owners and managers. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, PreCall. Through experience design, PreCall delivers best-in-class products, top-ranked service, unparalleled expertise, and resources needed to help facility operators win. For more information, go to PreCall.com. Welcome everyone. I am so thrilled that you are joining me today because we're about to explore a topic that we've never covered on the show before, artificial intelligence. And to ensure that we get the latest and the best education on this rapidly evolving subject, we've gone to the best of the best in the world of AI. His name is Paul Roetzer. Paul is the founder and CEO of PR 2020 and the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute. He's the author of the Marketing Performance Blueprint and the Marketing Agency Blueprint, and he's the creator of the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Conference. As a speaker, he's focused on making artificial intelligence approachable and actionable. Paul is a graduate of Ohio's University EW Scripps School of Journalism, and he's consulted for hundreds of organizations from startups to Fortune 500 companies. During this interview, you're going to hear Paul talk about a bunch of different AI systems, but I don't want you to panic. If you're driving or if you're running on the treadmill, I have made a list of all of the systems that he mentions, plus their website links, so you can really easily check them out after the interview. All you need to do is go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and take a look at today's show notes. Now we're about to dive into this week's interview, but first here's a message from our friends at PreCall. PreCall understands that experience matters when it comes to selecting the right fitness supplier for your facility. That's why they're celebrating their proven expertise in experience-driven design, the industry's highest resale value backed by top-tier US manufacturing, and the industry's highest-rated customer support team. Find out how PreCall can provide you the total solution approach to fit your needs. Go to PreCall.com/total-solutions. We are truly an international podcast with FBP family members from all over the world. So where better to catch up with everyone than at the biggest fitness business event in the world, Ras San Diego. On Thursday, the 19th of March, you'll have the opportunity to join friends and colleagues at the 3rd annual FBP Family Meetup. It's free and it's fun, so get 6 a.m. in your diary right now and listen in after the main interview for all the important details. Enjoy this week's show with my special guest, Paul Roetzer. Paul, welcome along. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Thanks again for having me.
It is going to be great because you know what? I know nothing about this topic. So I feel like this is going to be a super educational one for me and for all of our listeners here today. So let's start with the absolute basics. Can you explain to us what exactly is AI or artificial intelligence?
Yeah, first I'll tell you, you're not alone. I mean, it is, when I give talks, and I've done 70 plus talks around the world on AI over the last 3 years, 99% of the people in the audience have no idea what it is and how to use it. So your listeners are really kind of at the forefront. Even just listening to this conversation, hopefully will get them more advanced than many of their peers.
Excellent.
So the simplest way to think about artificial intelligence, my favorite definition, is the science of making machines smart. And that definition comes from Demis Hassabis, who created a company called DeepMind, which was acquired by Google back in 2016. What he means by that is every piece of software you use as a marketer, as a business owner, as a professional, you tell it what to do. So whether it's your project management system, your email marketing system, your social media tools, someone wrote code that makes them do what they do, and then you give instructions to that software to do its job. So you tell it what email to send and when to send it and what the subject line is going to be. And you go through all these things every day where you're writing these rules basically to tell software what to do. With artificial intelligence, the software actually learns to do things on its own. And it learns to get better and better over time at doing those things. And so the best way to understand it is actually to think about all the ways in your life every day you use artificial intelligence and don't even think about it. So I'll give you a few examples. If you watch Netflix uses AI to recommend shows it thinks you would like. It predicts the thing you would want to watch next. Gmail finishes sentences for you by predicting what you're going to write next. If you use like a Google Maps or Waze technology to navigate on streets, it's using AI to predict which route you should take. And so all these tools, Facebook, when you upload a photo, it predicts who's in the photo. You're probably recognizing I've used the word predict in every one of those explanations. That's largely what artificial intelligence does. It takes data in and it makes predictions about what will happen in the future. And then the real key is it uses what's called machine learning to learn as new data becomes available. So if you're in the fitness industry and you're trying to predict who would sign up for a class or who's going to churn as a customer or who might join as a new customer, all of those things are predictions you're about to make or trying to make. And that's where AI fits in. And then I'll just say one other thing about this. AI is kind of this umbrella term for all of these tools and technologies that make machines smart. The primary subset of it is machine learning. And so you'll often hear AI and machine learning almost used synonymously. It's machine learning is a subset of AI. So I'll kind of stop there and see if that makes sense to you and maybe dig a little deeper on that.
Yeah, so the I guess it clicked for me when you started giving those examples of things like Netflix and, in my head I was thinking, oh yeah, my Spotify account
exactly.
is always, giving me suggestions of what I'm going to like. So that makes total sense. I guess what I'm keen to understand a little bit deeper is any examples that you can give us of how AI would impact the fitness industry, or any that you know about, or any that we should be aware of or might recognize in the fitness industry?
A good way to think about AI and where it fits in your business is there's some very consistent signals that you're looking at something that could be using AI. The first is it data driven? So are you trying to make business decisions? Are you trying to make the marketing strategy decisions based on data? And do you have a lot of that data, and is new data always coming in? So if you're thinking about like a CRM tool and where you have all this information coming in of how often they're coming to the gym and maybe how long they stay and which classes they're taking at an individual level, that's not much you can do with that. But if you have 1,000 members, now all of a sudden you have all of this data where you want to predict, well, who's going to sign up for this next class, or how many people are going to take this course, or who's going to sign up to take a personal trainer. And there's all these decisions you make in your business every day where you're probably largely using instinct and maybe looking at some past data. But with AI, it's always looking at that data and it doesn't sleep. So now you have, in essence, a data scientist, a tool that functions like a data scientist, except it's constantly taking in new information. So you could use that for your email marketing strategy or text messaging strategy. So if you're trying to personalize messages at an individual level to members or potential members, you're trying to predict what message will get them to take an action. You could use it to target new potential members. So if you're running advertising on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Google or whatever you're going to run your advertising, you right now are probably picking the audience. I think they're going to be male, female. I think they'll be between these age groups, and you're trying to predict who's likely to become a customer. AI can help you with that. Another would be an online chat experience. So if you have a chat bot on your site and someone's there learning about things, to have a chatbot come up that actually helps narrate the story of your organization, but also nurture them through. So those are just some really practical examples that might be relevant to listeners.
Paul, I actually heard you talking about one particular example. I think it was on social media marketing podcast. And interestingly enough, Active Management, who own the Fitness Business podcast, have started using this technology. And I wanted to talk to you about it because I think that it's maybe not something that a lot of our listeners will be aware of. And that is, and you just briefly mentioned it then, that is customizing email communications, email newsletters, so that you are targeting individual members with content that's most relevant to them. So I guess I'll get you to go into more detail, but just my understanding of this is, let's say, for example, you've collected data based on a particular member and you know that they've got a goal of wanting to become stronger. Then what it means, I think, is that a system could actually feed them an email newsletter with specific information on strength-based training and, you know, the best foods that they can eat and the best exercises that they can do. But then someone else who's a member of your gym might be interested in running a marathon, and they could get a different version of that newsletter. Have I explained that correctly?
Yeah, and that's a really smart application of it, actually. So the technology I think you're referring to is called Rasa.io. It's RASA.io. That's the company. And what they do is smart newsletters. So they're AI-powered newsletters. And you just gave a perfect scenario. So let's say on your site, or you get a new member and you say, you provide personalized newsletters to you. Just go to this link and select your interest areas. And it could be goal-based. So I could go there and say, I'm trying to run a marathon. I just want to get fit at middle age, like whatever the goals are. And then what you can do is you tell Rasa what interesting sources there are out there. So maybe it's a health magazine, or maybe it's a specific industry person's Twitter feed. And basically their tool will go out and curate. It'll filter interesting pieces of content from any source that you give it. And it'll actually select and send at an individual level content specific to that person. And so maybe you have a smart newsletter for strength training, a smart newsletter for endurance training, a smart newsletter for diet and health. And each of those you could select potential sources of content. And then the newsletter itself will select and send to each person. And then the beauty is it actually then learns from the things they're clicking on to send them additional articles like that. So kind of the Spotify example you gave, or the Netflix example I gave, both of those are learner algorithms. They continually learn what you like by you thumbing up or hearting something. You're telling the machine, I like this thing. And that's how the machine learns, is by what you click on and what you engage with. And so newsletters is a great thing that many fitness businesses probably have a newsletter, and they probably send the same newsletter to all recipients. This is a way to send smart newsletters at an individualized level to segments of recipients.
That is very cool. Can you just give us that name one more time? Because I know people are going to be thinking and rewinding. So what was it? Yeah. Was it Rasa?
Rasa.io. It's RASA.io. And I know that they're actually in the very near future launching a newer version of their tool that's kind of a self-service model, because previously you had to really engage with it, and they're moving towards a much more user-friendly model where people can get in and test the technology real quickly, which what you'll learn the more you look into AI, it's not always easy to get your hands on it, because the best way to understand AI is to actually apply it yourself and play around with it a little bit. And many of the tools aren't available for trial, or they're not easy to set up without giving access to tons of data. So it's really cool to find those ones where you can get in and start getting a feel for what AI is actually capable of.
That is awesome to know. Thank you for telling us all about that. So other than what we've already talked about, are there any other examples of how AI is used, say, in a customer-centric business? It can be outside the fitness industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's this from a CRM standpoint. So every industry and every business has some customer relationship management database system that they're using. And from that, you do a lot of your engagement. Again, maybe it's one-off emails. It's not necessarily always newsletter-based, but you're trying to engage with these people in ways that are most relevant to them. And again, we all have busy lives. Maybe email works for some people and video for others and text messages for others. And it's really hard when you have hundreds or thousands of members to figure out at an individual level the best way to do it. So many of us rely on personas, and it's like, well, let's break our audience into these 3 types of people. You got the weekend warriors who only show up on Saturdays and Sundays. You got the everyday people. You got, people who only take classes. And so we build these personas, and then our entire marketing strategy is focused on like those 3 things, assuming everyone's lumped into one of those groups. And that's almost an impossible way to personalize marketing. And so what AI enables, when you have a CRM system and you have all the behavioral data in it, you can get much more granular in how you communicate with these people, to the point where you feel like every communication was written for you or was created for you as the user, as the customer. And it creates deeper engagement, honestly, between the organization and the customer, because you start to feel like they're really tailoring everything to you. And we all feel it. Like, we all get the ads targeted to us with different clothes to buy. And you're like, how do they know? Like, that's a really nice outfit. I want that outfit. So what happens is these companies get really, really good at targeting, and they're using machine learning to do it. They're predicting your interests based on your behaviors.
I feel like the fitness industry is like such a prime environment for this type of technology. We put so much emphasis on making sure that we're servicing our members and understanding our members. So it just feels so right that we are exploring this topic on the show today. So I think, for people that are listening to what we're talking about, and they're maybe still feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the whole concept of AI, can you give us some really basic ground rules or steps on where we can actually begin to know where a fitness business should start with implementing this type of tech?
Yeah, you start with small pilot projects. So we always talk about pilot projects, meaning don't try and apply AI to your entire marketing program on day one. What you want to do is find those things like a smart newsletter, like an online chat, something that could bring value, and go search for a tool that does it. And actually, as we were talking, I was thinking through my own experience with the gym I'm at. This is my 3rd time at this gym. So in the last 15 years, I've left and rejoined 3 times due to life changes. And so when I rejoined this time, they know I was a member before. And the only call to action I have gotten from them since I joined is to try and get me to schedule an introduction with a personal trainer, because obviously they're trying to like upsell me to get a personal trainer. But if they would have on day one sent me a survey that said, what are you trying to achieve here? What are the challenges in your current workout? And they basically learned a bunch of profiling data on me, asked me about my diet, asked me about challenges with nutrition, whatever it may be. Think about how richer of an experience I could have had as a member in those first 30 days if all of a sudden they're sending me really personalized recommendations on dietary challenges or other things where I don't even feel like they're selling me anything. They're not trying to get me to do the personal trainer thing, which I know is just to get me to sign up for a personal trainer. They're just like catering to my interests and needs, which over time is going to make me more loyal anyway, and I'm probably more likely to sign up for a class. So I don't know. I think you can look at it as you can do goal-based, where you say, I'm trying to solve this thing or do this thing in my business, and we haven't succeeded doing it manually through traditional technology. How could I maybe apply AI to it to do it better? The alternative is to look for things that you do all the time that are repetitive and try and see if there's a more efficient way to do it. And you can literally just go online and search AI for smart newsletters or AI for online chatbots or AI for, just go into Google and do it. You don't even need to hire a consultant for that part. You just look for the thing you do a lot that's repetitive and data-driven and see if someone's built tools to help do that smarter.
Paul, you mentioned the smart newsletter system earlier. Are there any other systems that you have had experience with or that you've seen a customer-centric business utilize, maybe for the chatbots or, any of the stuff that we've been talking about? Any other references or tools that you would recommend that we can check out?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a marketing automation and CRM platform, that's a great place to start. Like, you need that. I'm kind of assuming everyone has one of those, but if you don't have that, then HubSpot would be a really good starting point, because they're one of the leaders in terms of marketing automation, CRM, and actually customer service. So marketing, sales, and service, that has really tried to build products that are more approachable at a lower price point. Now, they obviously have enterprise grade products as well, but they enable you to do many things, and you can actually integrate third-party AI tools into theirs. So just like any other time in business, you need that core technology stack of, a CRM and an automation tool. So I would think HubSpot there. In terms of online chat, that tools that are using AI, Drift, D-R-I-F-T, is a really good one to look at, because they also have kind of a low entry level product, and they're integrating the AI more and more into their tool. Initially, even as much as a year ago, the AI was really only available at a very high level, but it's becoming more readily available. So that would be another one I would look at. And then in terms of like digital advertising, one that comes to mind would be WordStream. So if you're spending $500 or more a month on digital ads, you really shouldn't be trying to do that yourself. And honestly, humans aren't very good at figuring out how to allocate media budgets, because there's so many places you can put it. So WordStream would be kind of like an entry level product, or if you're spending maybe, from 500 to probably up even to 10,000, you would look for a tool like that. If you're spending more than that, I don't know if you have any listeners that would be, then you're looking at a much more enterprise grade product like a Albert or something like that, where that tool will actually manage much larger budgets, like 30, 40,000 and above a month.
What did you call that system? That last one?
Albert. It's A-L-B-E-R-T. So theirs is kind of a media buying platform. It does predictive media buying based on performance data, and it manages your budgets for you. You just tell it how much you want to spend, and it'll actually pick the channels and move the money from Facebook to YouTube to Twitter to Google, whatever, based on how things are performing. So again, it gets smarter in its predictions.
Right. And that's for a larger business though, that particular one.
I think their minimum spend is somewhere in the range of 40,000 a month. So
wow.
Yeah, it's definitely for the
definitely a larger business. Okay, thank you for that great list. Now, one of the things that you mentioned right up front, and I guess for a moment I'm just going to move more into an operations side of thing in our facility rather than necessarily a member-focused thing, and that is, let's say, for example, we are trying to predict the behavior of people going into, say, group fitness classes. How many people are doing body pump, how many people are going to cycle, what type of people are going to those classes. Is there technology that exists that learns that behavior at the moment and can say to us, okay, well, we, anticipate or we predict that your peak times are going to be here, your peak classes are going to be such and such. Is there anything that exists currently in AI land that can make those type of predictions?
So I would tell you, yes. Has anyone built it specific for the fitness industry? I do not know. But what you'll realize very quickly is most AI to date. So again, globally, there's about 18%, the last study I saw, 18% of organizations around the world are what they consider pioneers in AI, meaning they're beyond just piloting a few use cases, and they're actually scaling the use across their business. Now, that only applies to the operations side. Our experience on the marketing and sales side is it's probably less than 1%. So almost nobody is applying the AI into marketing and sales use cases. Now, that's not to say it's not a multi-billion-dollar industry, but when it's compared to the bigger picture operations and business side. So we work with and talk to a lot of massive enterprises, like Fortune 100 companies, who have been doing AI for 5 to 10 years on the operations and business side. And they're just now realizing the value of it and saying, where else can we apply this? So what I would tell you is there's basically three main players in the space. So if you're going to build something of your own, or you're working with a team that's going to build something, they're likely going to build it on Amazon Web Services or AWS. They're going to do Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. So those are the three major players that are fighting for AI business. And what they're doing is they're educating the market on the value and potential of AI in hopes that you'll house your data in their cloud. So you move all your customer data into their cloud. Once it's there, they make it really easy to use all their machine learning capabilities. So if you want to build a predictive model on who's going to sign up for a class or how many people are going to come in and register next month for your gym, you can actually use the same recommendation engine that Amazon uses to predict what product people will buy next. You just have to move your data to there. So what I'm saying is your use case is actually a really smart and relatively simple use case to apply AI to. It's just, I don't know if someone has AI to predict, fitness memberships. Like, I don't know that anybody has actually tailored a model to do that yet. Somebody should, but I don't know if it is. But if it's not, it would just require like a data scientist and a machine learning engineer to use one of the three major cloud providers to actually custom build something. And I'll give you a real quick example. The thing when you think about growing your fitness business and registrations and class fulfillment, whatever it may be, you're going to take all these factors into your mind, like seasonality, maybe weather factors in, I don't know, like whatever these things are, past enrollment in different months. And there's a good chance you're missing factors. You're not able to think through all of them. And so the example is I gave a talk at a convenience store conference. These are people that own gas stations and convenience stores, from like 50 to 5,000 of them. So they're usually family owned and they own all these. For years, they'd been doing predictive modeling around gas prices. They had never factored in weather. And they moved everything. I think in their case, they used Amazon Web Services, moved all their data to Amazon, and then piped in weather data. And they learned that when it's raining, you never drop the price of gasoline, because the only people who stop when it's raining are people who are on empty. And they're not going to drive another half mile to save 5 cents a gallon. Mm-hmm. And this company, it generated millions of dollars in revenue in 1 year just by not dropping prices when it was raining. And so I guess what I'm saying is, what's your weather data? Like, what is the thing that maybe people aren't even thinking about that you might be able to move and put all this data together and discover a whole new set of gym members or people who take classes that maybe you wouldn't otherwise know?
That is such a great example. Thank you for sharing that. And I must admit, Paul, as you were talking through that last section and you were talking about taking our data and putting it into the cloud, in my mind, suddenly the word privacy laws and data sort of popped into my mind, because I know that it's the whole thing around privacy and obviously the laws that changed in Europe earlier in the year and those type of things. I mean, where is the cross-section of artificial intelligence and privacy come? I mean, what do we need to know about that before we're taking that customer information and utilizing it for AI purposes?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. It's actually something we're actively working on through our Marketing AI Institute. So we work with healthcare companies that have huge restrictions on what they can do, as well as insurance companies and financial companies. And every organization needs to understand the privacy policies and limitations within their industries. And some of them are more stringent than others. But I think more importantly, every organization that's going to use AI needs to really think about the ethical use of it, because it's going to give marketers and business owners powers to target people in ways they've never fathomed before. For example, there is probably no law, I don't know about Australia, but in the US, restricting you from using facial recognition software when someone walks into your store or gym. So you could have a camera there that actually recognizes the person's face because you take their photo when they join the gym, and you wouldn't even have to have them alert you they're there, because your computer vision software would actually already have read their face and know they're there. You could do things like that, but it's like, do we want to cross that line? Do we want to, unbeknownst to our customers, use facial recognition software on them when they walk in the door? That's the future of retail. And this is where I say, like, the line is going to keep moving. Yeah. Amazon earlier this year launched stores where there's nothing. There's no cashiers. There's nothing. They know who you are when you walk in the door. They know everything you look at, everything you pick up. And when you walk out the door, you just walk out because it already knows everything that's in your bag.
Yeah, I saw this on the news.
Yeah. And so what could you do with that in the fitness industry? It's like, well, how valuable would it be to you if you knew every piece of equipment I actually used every day? So not only that I was there, but that I was on the elliptical for 30 minutes, and then I went and did a bench press, and then I went over here and did this. Technically speaking, that is fully doable with technology today if you had cameras all over the gym. You could monitor usage of individual equipment at an individual level and use that to predict what else they might do. You might realize, like, wow, for 3 months, Paul had never done chest exercises. Now he's been doing it for 30 days straight. Like, wonder what changed. Or never did leg lifts. Like, maybe I had an injury and all of a sudden I'm rehabbing an injury. Like, so there's all kinds of things you could predict, but it's like, should you?
Yeah.
We're about to hear this week's Fitbispiration from Paul, but first here's a message from our friends at Loud Rumor.
Advertising is not expensive. Obscurity is. Being unknown in your own community. And for just $99 a month, you can put an end to all of that. Loud Rumor has worked with over 1,500 fitness studios all over the world. And for only $99, we'll teach you step by step how to run ad campaigns like some of the largest fitness franchises on the planet. To learn more and get a bunch of sample training videos, go to loudrumorvt.com. Again, that's loudrumorvt.com.
Now back to Paul, where he's going to share 3 tips for introducing AI into your fitness business.
Sure. We talked earlier about the need for pilot projects, and that's kind of what we were focusing on. Is like, where can you actually get started? So I'll kind of end with 3 ways to get started. So the first is, think about your marketing and sales and make a list, whether you do them or you have a team of people that do them, make a list of all the repetitive tasks that you do every month for marketing and sales. It could be running reports, it could be social media updates, it could be sending emails, any of those things. Just make a list and then give yourself a column of hours. So how much time do you spend every month doing them? And a cost column. So maybe it's like cost of the people doing it or cost of software you're using to help do that. And then create one more column that says the value, this would be kind of step 2, assign a value to intelligently automate that task. So you don't have to know if AI can actually do it. This is more of like an exercise to say, if I could use AI to intelligently automate part of this, how valuable on a 1 to 5 scale would that be to me? 1 meaning no real value, 5 meaning this would transform my business if I didn't have to do this thing every month. And then the third step would be take all the things that rated highly and pick 3 to 5 of them and go search AI for this thing, AI for email newsletters, AI for writing analytics reports, AI for, and just doing Google searches, you may actually uncover tools that can do the thing that you would find tons of value in intelligently automating. So you could go hire a consultant to do this for you, and you still may, depending on the size of your company. But this is a free way to just start to get a sense of the things that could be intelligently automated in your business and the potential value you may get out of it.
Absolutely awesome. Paul, I've loved speaking to you about this topic today, and I feel like we've walked away so much with a much, much better understanding of artificial intelligence and all of the capabilities and possibilities for fitness facilities. So thank you for taking the time to join us, and don't be surprised if I come knocking on your door early next year and ask for an update on how things are progressing, because I feel like it's no doubt a rapidly changing and evolving area, and we would love to stay up to date because this has been incredibly valuable. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's been great to do it. And I'm actually now kind of interested myself to go see if people have built AI tools for the fitness industry, because it seems to me like it would be ripe industry to do some interesting things. And so thank you for having me and opening my mind and now giving me 10 more to-dos for tomorrow.
Yeah. Such a pleasure. And I think we need to stay in touch, because you never know. You know what? I'm going to put the call out to all of the FBP family out there, because if you are listening to today's episode and you have started utilizing artificial intelligence in your business, then please reach out and let me know so that I can pass it on to Paul as well, and we can all become more aware and better educated about how this type of tech is starting to play a part and influence in the fitness industry. So once again, Paul, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Here's a message from our podcast partner, MyZone. MyZone is a wearable technology platform that leverages personal goal setting, gamification, and social platforms to motivate your members. To find out more, go to myzone.org. FVP family, we have an exciting competition running throughout November and December 2019. You could win a pair of Bose sunglasses with micro speakers integrated into the arms of the frames, meaning that you can listen to the Fitness Business Podcast without having to use headphones or earphones. They are super cool and you are going to look awesome. No matter where in the world you are, just subscribe to our incredible show notes and tell us in 50 words or less why you love the Fitness Business Podcast. Just go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/win for all the details.
PreCall Quickfire 5.
This week's PreCall Quickfire 5 guest is Rich Hudson. Rich, a super warm welcome. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you very much, Chantel. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm very excited.
Let's kick off your PreCall Quickfire 5 questions. Tell us, why do you do what you do?
Well, if I'm really honest about it, it's for self-serving reasons, very greedy reasons, to be honest, which I think is a good thing. Ultimately, as humans, I think if we make ourselves happy, we can work at making others happy. So I am lucky enough, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, to be working in the best industry in the world. There's no doubt about it. I work with like-minded people, who have a lot of high energy. They're feel-good people. They also generally love what they do. And I don't think anybody else could put up with me. I mean, my goodness, if I was working in an office, I'd probably get punted out in a heartbeat because I just can't sit down for a long, long time. So fitness has got my back and I've got its, and it really is something I love doing. It makes me feel good from the inside out. And, ultimately it's given me opportunities as a kid, from a small town in Canada. I've now been lucky enough to, I think, work in 18 countries and live in another 7. And boy, if you would have told me that when I was a 10-year-old kid, I would have never, ever, ever believed that. And, that's the beauty of fitness, because it allows you to go all over different parts of the world and to share what you do, and especially if you're good at it. And I'd say the last one is that being in the sales line, that's where I pretty much cut my teeth in this business, is every day, when I'm working with my teams, I make sure that I want them to have the same passion as me, because that's the only way they'll be successful in helping people get started. And I might be a little bit old school, Chantel, in the way, but I don't have a problem with chasing somebody down the street if they didn't get started with me today. I think it's the best decision that they could make in their entire life. If it's the last bleeding dollar, I think you should be spending on fitness, because it's going to truly change your life. So, if you put all those things together in a bag, that makes it pretty easy to get up in the morning and do what I do.
Wow, that is absolutely phenomenal. And I could not agree more. It is definitely the best industry in the world to work in. So thank you for that answer, Rich. So tell us, what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
Okay. There's 2 things. There's 3 principles that I live by. I'm going to tell you about 2 of them, and then just something that I do, which is more of a ritual. Number 1, I sign my emails as make your own luck. Anyone who's worked with me will know that I talk about that. That's something that I tell my teams about. And ultimately what that means to me is your future will always depend on you and nobody else. And there is a lot of luck involved right? But you got to make sure you're in the right time at the right place and to create your luck. And I live by that, and I think about that constantly with everything I do, and I try to embed that in the people that I work with. That, sometimes things don't go your way, and sometimes you do get people, that work against you and so forth. But ultimately, 80-90% of your success just comes around having a belief system within yourself and putting yourself in a position to be quote-unquote lucky. I'd say that's number 1. Number 2 is something that I stole from one of my favorite mentors, and his name is Brian Tracy, and I've read so many of his books, and he said something. He said, "Everything counts, everything counts, everything counts." And when I heard that, it just stuck with me, because especially in a leadership position, well, I think we're in a leadership position in the fitness industry every day, whether you're instructing at the front desk as a leader within the business, doesn't matter. Everything counts, meaning you're always being judged. And people are putting good ticks beside your name or bad ticks. Everything counts for you or against you in life. And you have to know that, and you have to be conscious of that. So everything counts, everything counts, everything counts. I tell my leadership team that constantly. They're constantly on view. They're constantly being judged. I tell my sales team that from the second that they speak to somebody and shake their hand, that somebody is making a decision whether they're going to join the club. And most of that is based on that person, because everything counts. And the one little ritual that I use is, and it's crazy, but you'll probably have a laugh, is when I'm exercising or doing something. And as you will well know, Chantel, it's not always easy getting up in the morning to train. In fact, most people, if they're really honest, I don't want to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning to train. Some people will probably think that's late. But, and I always try to find ways to get out of it, to be honest. And so I just tell myself, there's a couple of things I do when I wake up. I say, listen, just wake up now and go get your coffee. Once I've got my coffee, get your stuff on. Why don't we just head down to the gym and we'll see what kind of workout we do today. And I play this little game with myself to where I get myself to where I need to be. And I also do that with the repetitions. I don't fall short on them, because I believe that not fulfilling that part of my day will then echo into the rest of my day and the things that I do. So is to not quit and not stop on all those little things. And that's the one ritual or the game I've played in my head in my entire life. And I guess it comes from being a highly competitive person as well. So
they are great examples, Rich. Thank you for going into those. And isn't it funny, like even when you are as passionate about fitness as you are, and you've got a history, a sporting history, and you love exercise, that we all have those days where you've just got to find a way to make it happen and to get it done. And I always say to a lot of my class members, you never ever regret doing a workout, but you might regret it if you don't get out of bed and you don't go in and do that workout. So that was a really great little mantra that you do for your morning workout. So talk to us now about apps or systems. Are there any apps or systems that you would use to stay in control of your workload?
Well, into control of my workload, I don't use anything mind-bending out there. I do love Google Docs, and I do love it for the speed that it allows us to work on things, in different parts of Malaysia. We can work on things at home if we're working on budgets. And I think it's just really cool that it's a real-time document that allows, edits to be made and so forth. So I know it's nothing mind-tingling, but I do use that a lot with my team. It's very, very helpful.
There is nothing wrong with that. I'm exactly the same. I love that it doesn't matter where you are, but you can do those Google Docs updates on the fly. It's very cool. Now, you mentioned Brian Tracy earlier, so I'm kind of anticipating his name's going to come back into the conversation, but I could be totally wrong. No pressure. So are there any books, podcasts, or blogs that you'd recommend, and why?
Yeah, Brian Tracy's the guru, man. He's the man. But originally when it came down to, when I first got into this business, one of my other mentors, a good man by the name of Terry Q, got me reading Brian Tracy, and he taught a lot of his principles, his goal-setting principles, which are still true today, his selling cycle and leadership principles. And I've probably read about 90% of his books. And I don't think there's anybody out there, if you're looking at a rounded view of how to lead people, how to work in the sales industry, how to run a good business, he's just absolutely phenomenal and has served me well. That would be number one. I'd say the second book that I would push anybody to read, and anybody who's worked with me or in a leadership position will know that I've had them read this book, and it's called Good to Great. Mm-hmm. Although, at the end, a lot of these companies didn't make it through. If you're familiar with the book, but the principles of the book, level 5 leadership, first who, then what, confront the brutal facts. All of these principles are phenomenal when it comes to business. And if you apply them within your business, you really can't go wrong. I think it's just a fantastic book.
That is an excellent recommendation. So let's wrap up the PreCall Quickfire 5 with your final question. So just tell us really briefly the topic that we're going to be focusing on during your main interview.
Okay. Well, what we're going to chat about today is just what it takes to raise your membership price, some of the principles around that, some of the things that you can consider when you do so. I had a recent experience here at She Fitness, where I am the CEO, well, country manager now, as I'm with Evolution Wellness. We sold the business to them roughly about a year ago. When I started within the business, we looked at the business as a whole, and I knew that we had to do something pretty dramatic. It wasn't in a good place. And so I'm just going to share with you a lot of the things that I did in order to get it to a very profitable position and get it to a sale. So hopefully there'll be some interest in that, and people will get some good points out of that today.
No, we're really grateful for you sharing that with us and giving us those kind of behind the scenes insights into what you went through during that time. So, Rich, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to your main interview next week. Thank you.
Wonderful. Look forward to seeing you then.
I chose this week's Rewind show because it related so closely to the chat that we had with Paul around privacy laws. The show I'm talking about is episode 233. It was called Data Privacy, Biometrics, and Website Accessibility Updates for Club Operators with Helen Durkin from Roetzer. During the interview, we talk about what exactly is GDPR. How do GDPR rules affect gym owners? What are biometrics and how do they affect our business? And website accessibility for people with disabilities. If you missed that episode, then go to today's show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and in the search field type 233. You, your team, and your friends are invited to our third Roetzer FBP Family Meetup on Thursday, March the 19th, 2020 at 6 a.m. It's not a fast walk, it is a stroll where you can connect and chat with others from right across the planet. There are listeners, guests, and sponsors all joining us, and you will be back at the lobby of the Convention Centre by 7:15 a.m. The meetup is free and it's the best way to start your day. When you register to attend at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, you'll be the first to hear about a new initiative we have for our 2020 FBP Meetup. Go to the top of the page and click on the tab called Meetup, then make sure you register your details for the Roetzer Walk. If you need any more information, then please email me directly at chantal@fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. A huge thank you to every single one of you for joining me today. A quick reminder that all the resources and the links for today's episode can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you to our foundation partner, Active Management. Active Management are a fitness business coaching company that help clients all over the world. And this month, I have a business tip for you all. Join the Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group and you'll meet like-minded fitness owners and managers from all over the world. All you need to do is go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community. It's a highly engaging community where JT from Active Management shares loads of resources. Things like photos from inside gyms, reasons to exercise, a monthly book club, challenges, and even ideas under $50. It's free and it is an awesome community. Once again, just go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community. Thank you all once again for joining me today. Enjoy your week ahead and remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into lives of others.